Don't disagree with me, folks. So, there's a church in Hamilton East, Ottawa Street specifically. It's a New Thought church. I don't know if you ever heard of it or seen it. I've gone, and basically, so there was a period of my life when I was experiencing auditory and never visual, auditory hallucinations. It was all that methamphetamine and all that sleeplessness, but also all of that direct connection to the higher consciousness that is God. And it's a collective consciousness, Jake. That's my definition of God. It's a force of nature, like gravity or light or sound. It's you don't have to believe it. Why bother? But you know, when you're building an airplane, it sure helps to be thinking about gravity and to just believe for the purposes of the design that gravity exists, and that's a really great way to conceptualize God in your life. If it doesn't work, throw it out, but I'd like to see a moment when it doesn't. Anyway, where was I? I'm completely lost. So the cost of my 10-week seminar is only $499. No, just kidding. So that church. So they apparently train people to harness their intuition and the voices that they hear and to use them for the common good. But I kind of doubt their ability to do that, because the 3 times that I showed up, they were like, "I'm sorry, we're not having services today, we're having a private event." I'm like, well, thanks. I guess I'll figure this out on my own, I always do. And then one of the times they rubbed it in and said, yeah, we were serving this, and the guy had this big thing in his hand, and like his wife or whatever like pulled the thing off, and it was like these delicious, luscious, exuberant cupcakes. I think they were chocolate, rosemary, lavender, because that's what you do when you're upper middle class in this town. Are you two married or friends or what? Or like you secretly hate each other or what? Okay, I love that. Do you enjoy working together? And how long have you been married? Are you kidding? Everyone give it up for them. Oh my God. They look great. They're doing great things in this world. That is so killer. Well, hopefully you understand that in coming here tonight, you're going to end up saving some souls by the end of the day, by the end of the evening. How's that technical issue going? Okay, so I kind of ruined it, but I want all of you, by which I mean both of you, to just imagine that I elegantly walked onto the stage without saying a word. Got it? Sneak preview. I will be speaking in tongues tonight for my 5 minutes.
But you're going to sing this time, right?
It's the opening.
It's the opening.
Have you ever watched the Sonny and Cher show? It's called
Sure,
Cold
yeah, I used to
Open.
watch it every week. Yeah. Is my mic on? Yeah. Is this thing on? Yeah. Nice.
A word from our sponsor.
What's this? Is this our theme song now?
This is a requirement to. You have to
okay.
get through this to.
So sorry. Okay.
Okay. You're supposed to be standing off so that you can have the majestic walk on, so everyone gets what a big time player you are here. This is the Frank Sinatra. This is the Frank Sinatra of our crew here. He's the owner. He's very important. My life depends on him. All right, people. What's the matter with the clothes I'm wearing? Can't you tell that your tie's too wide? Maybe I should buy some old tab collars. Welcome back to the age of jive. Where have you been hiding out lately, honey? You can't dress trashy till you spend a lot of money. Everybody's talking about the new sound funny, but it's still rock and roll to me. What's the matter with the car I'm driving? Can't you tell that it's out of style? Should I get a set of white wall tires? Are you gonna cruise the Miracle Mile? Nowadays you can't be too sentimental. Your best bet's a true baby blue Continental. Hot funk, cool punk, even if it's old junk, it's still rock and roll to me. Oh, it doesn't matter what they say in the papers, 'cause it's always been the same old scene. There's a new band in town, but you can't get the sound from a story in a magazine aimed at your average teen. How about a pair of pink sidewinders and a bright orange pair of pants? Well, you could really be a Beau Brummel, baby, if you just give it half a chance. Don't waste your money on a new set of sneakers. You get more mileage from a cheap pair of speakers. Next phase, new wave dance craze. Anyways, it's still rock and roll to me. All right, big guy. Once again, thank you for coming to the Center of Talking Arts right here at 154 James Street. Is this James Street North or South? James Street South. We're here tonight with Sofa So Good, hosted by Jake Jenk, who is not coming on stage yet because I still have to sing this. What's the matter with the crowd I'm seeing? Don't you know that they're out of touch? Should I try to be a straight A student? If you are, then you think too much. Don't you know about the new fashion, honey? All you need are looks and a whole lot of money. It's the next phase, new wave dance craze. Anyways, it's still rock and roll to me. Everybody's talking about the new sound funny, but it's still rock and roll to me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your host for the evening, Jake Jenk.
Thank you. I'm not sure I like this. You're just too charismatic. I can't keep that up. I got to be a little bit more dull. I'm more even keeled right now. Oh, thank you. I don't really need the music, but I could riff off of it. Hey guys, how you doing? So welcome. This is kind of a last minute thing. I just got off the plane. Basically, I have what could be described as jet lag. I really haven't slept a lot lately, so I'm hoping that my brain kind of stays together, and this might be a good way to get me back into this timeline. It feels like I have shifted. So I was in Turkey, or Turkey, as Turkey, No. Yeah. They're very nationalistic, and Istanbul is an amazing city. It's like 20 million plus people. So after spending a few weeks there, you come back and you think, where is everybody? It's like all the streets seem bare because you get used to, cats everywhere. Yeah. Well, that's what Sue was saying. Like they should make that the highlight of their tourism posters. Yeah, Turkey, yeah. Well, they insist that that's the official pronunciation now, and I see it in some sporting events and the Olympics, and sometimes they get it right. That's interesting. But all things Turkish, let's talk Turkish, but not the actual language. But it's an interesting place. I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you've ever been there. Anybody? It's a popular tourist place as well. But Istanbul has always been kind of a nexus for a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages, a lot of different, frankly, a lot of it had to do with business. It had to do with trade. The Silk Road kind of ended up there. And It's no surprise that the Turkish people, like I'm Turkish, and are very entrepreneurial. They're all like kind of, maybe it's the tea. Like there's a, like I remember as a child, basically, we just start drinking tea in the morning, like, and you can have it all day long. You just eat it with a snack. You have tea. And it got me to thinking, like, that's a lot of caffeine for a child. And then most of the adults are drinking it all day long. You go into a store, they give you some tea, and you drink it. Like, I'm thinking, how does that affect the national, I don't know, spirit, Geist? And there are different popular drugs in different cultures, right? I guess Western so-called culture in North America, it seems to be like stimulants, like Adderall is very, very big. Coffee, everybody's hooked on. I've been able to get away from that, but it affects, this is how I see it now. Like, well, I don't know if you know this about me, you probably do. I have done a lot of psychedelics in the past. I've experimented with a lot of different things. And I find that my mind goes blank sometimes. No, it's some of the things that they tried. People as a child. I mean, I was kind of afraid to do it, and I didn't actually try it until I was in my 40s, until I felt like I was kind of stable enough to do it, like maybe late 30s, early 40s, and it's because I've come to have this understanding of human nature, I guess, that kind of thinks of everyone as a collection of beings in a way, or a bunch of systems at play, storms at play, subroutines, whatever you want to call it. There's many ways to look at it. And historically, when we try to understand what the mind is, what the human is, we talk in terms of compartments and other parts of you doing things. And I find that it's probably, or at least in my case, I discovered that there are many parts of me that are at play together, and that arrive together in different recipes at different times to be the person that is me at any given moment. But going back to Turkey, I can't help but be reminded of my childhood, because I was born there, and I was 5 or 6. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was just late 5, just before 6. And a lot of this things, I'm there, so I start having memories, and travel is really important, I think, for a lot of people. I think it's something that a lot of people should do if they haven't. But also traveling back to something that is more rooted is kind of interesting. I was born there, and I came back when I was 5. Came here when I was 5, but I didn't go back until I was 33. So it was like 28 years of a gap, and I felt like a complete stranger. I didn't really feel like I belonged, but I felt like a tourist, any tourist, But the more I visited there, the more I started feeling comfortable within the, I don't know, grooves, you want to call it? We all have grooves that we live in, right? And different cultures have different grooves, and by that I just mean a series of social acts that are maybe performed or committed or carried out on such a regular basis that becomes kind of a regular groove in which we just glide on without actually having to think about it. And there's a lot of things that are built into us physically, and people like to talk about that, and those what I call body systems, but there's also cultural things, cultural storms, more abstract storms of ideas that also shape, of course, who you are. And it's always kind of interesting to go back and then think about your childhood. And I found the house that I used to live in. It's kind of like a small apartment block kind of thing. And right now it's being used by a university as a digital training center so they have all these high-end studios in there, and I was able to get in and take a peek at what used to be my living room is now just this giant studio with amazing equipment in it. It's like, wow. But what's fascinating is that I remember that space being huge, like massive. I remember running across it and like taking a long time to get across that place, and then falling on my face in one end, and it just seemed like forever. And then you look at it now, it's like, it's so odd. But my entire perspective, everything that I was used to, was on a whole different set of grooves, just because of the size difference. The world was just 4 or 5 times larger to me. Everything, the experience of it was bigger. But being there, you get a bunch of cultural grooves that you get into, like tea, like honestly, like a lot of caffeine. Some cultures are into alcohol. You know, I don't know, like stereotypically Russians or Irish culture or what have you. And how does that affect the national spirit guide? You know, what does it do for their literature, their culture, their art? Obviously, it has a great effect. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about the Nazis being basically hooked on stimulants. And Hitler was taking a lot of these things, and kind of makes sense, because I think I mentioned this before. It's like the worst drug that I've ever tried was actually Adderall. Like it kind of made me feel effective, but weirdly less human. I felt less ability to arouse affection or empathy or desire. I don't know. This is just me. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think some cases it works. It works for a lot of people. Thank you. Yeah. And for some people, it's a life changer. But I feel like, you know, Silicon Valley, et cetera, and young people in universities, apparently it's just like everybody's on stimulants all the time. And even people that are prescribed it are on stimulants. And people are drinking coffee all the time, Coca-Cola. Like, we're just on stimulants all the time. And I'd been smoking a lot of weed before I left, and I stopped, you know, for the 3 weeks that I was there, and I didn't miss it at all. Surprisingly, yeah, thank you. It's like you feel like I do it almost daily, well, pretty much daily. None at all. It's like, and nobody really, it's such a, speaking of the differences of it, you go to a park at 10 o'clock with your child at night, and all the kids are playing, and the parents are sitting around like picnic tables, they're drinking tea, you know, whatever else they're drinking, mineral water, but very little alcohol. It's, yeah, of course, yeah. No, although the current government is more conservative than they have been in generations the last 15 years. So there is a bit of, they're making it difficult. Like it's really hard to get any kind of like a patio license to have alcohol, but they're making it more expensive and more difficult to buy. But it's not banned or anything. It's not like Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I mean, Istanbul has always been, you know, because it's a crossroad of cultures, it's always been the place where weird shit happened. Like it's, you know, you think of like Berlin now or whatever. Everything was tried there, you know, all the world's cultures, but also their businesses. And, you know, I went into a subway station there that has, I think it's the deepest, like, depth to, it's underwater, actually. You have to go really deep. And they had a real difficulty making it, because every time they would dig a little bit, and this happens at a lot of subway stations, and they find like an old boat from like, you know, 3,000 years ago, and they go, oh, we got to take care of that and do everything. Then, you know, then they actually change the plans and they move it so that the archaeologists could work on that for a while. They move it over here and they dig and they find like an older civilization, even deeper. And the only reason that they have delays is for archaeological finds, and it was kind of heartening to see that they took that seriously. Like they took that seriously. That was interesting. And I don't know. It's always funny because when I was a kid growing up in Hamilton, I was a weird ethnic person. Like, I mean, you know, it's just, what is Turkish? Nobody really knows what that is, and so everybody just thought I was Italian. You know, growing up, and I thought if I ever did like a one-man show about Turkish, it's like, what is a Turk? It's somewhere between a Jew and an Italian. You know, that's basically, you know, temperament, you know, mothers, they're very similar. Like there's kind of a something happening there, and it's the Mediterranean. Oh yeah. Yeah, because your mother-in-law is Italian. Yeah. Oh, feed. It's pathological. Like my mother tries to feed you so much, it doesn't make any sense. It's like she's fed me several plates of food, and anybody comes, and she says, "I see you haven't had any of this. Would you like this?" And oh, would you like some more? Like clearly, I've just eaten 20 different things, but she's also. Well, why wouldn't you try it? It's a lot of guilt. Yeah. And it's weird because my mom is rail thin, always has been, but she feeds everybody. It's kind of interesting. She doesn't eat herself. She just kind of sneaks a bite off the plate every now and then. But she's great. She's still in Istanbul. She's going to come back in a couple of weeks. Anyway, I feel like I've talked a long time, but I haven't been on a mic in a while. So keep talking if you have any questions. Oh, the cats. Yeah, I mean it's a great tourist draw, but also, well, yeah, right. Well, that's kind of what. Yeah, my daughter. That's a refrain she kept saying. She wanted to pet all the cats, but not the dogs. There are some stray dogs. No. That's right. People dogs. But, it's also, and Sue noticed this, my wife, is that that's Kazakhstan. It's a little bit further east. But she noticed that, it's like if you're feeling bad and you're having a bad day, you could just go outside and pet a cat. Like, it's like an automatic antidepressant and she did that one day. She was kind of feeling a little bit overwhelmed. She went downstairs and she says, I couldn't stay, angry or upset. It was just so cute because you have cats come up and you pet them. It's amazing. Instead of chipmunks and squirrels, they have cats. I think it's a good trade-off. They don't have raccoons, they have some dogs. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I want to pet a squirrel. Why won't they let me pet him? And strangely, I briefly my dad was a bit of a Istanbul underworld gambler kind of guy, and he would come home with some strange gifts for me late at night. And one night he came home with a squirrel in a cage and like bags of pistachios. Apparently it only liked pistachios. And I fed this squirrel. I think we let it out once, but it went nuts inside. Got it back in the cage. It was gone in a couple of days, but I thought, I really wanted to pet that squirrel, but it never let me pet itself. It just wouldn't. They don't make good pets. It was a terrible idea, but at nights he would come home and I'd basically line up his cash and count it for him and his bullets, and I would line them up and make it look like little soldiers and have some fun with that. That was the kind of fun I had in Istanbul when I was 5 years old. So anyway, I'm gonna get the first guest up here. Is it gonna be Sean? Is there actually? No, that's last week. This is such a small turnout. That's an old. That's new? Oh, I didn't know if we had it. Oh, yeah, okay. Coming up first, you've seen him, you know him. Sean Patrick Sullivan.
Uptown girl.
Dear God, I have a request for you. To use me as your vessel tonight, for I have said so much this week that has been so outrageous, so bilious, so controversial. Dear God, I will say anything you want me to say. I will sing anything you want to sing. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm never going to see most of these people again anyway, so that's all right with me. It won't be easy, you'll think it's strange when I try to explain how I feel, that I still need your love after all that I've done. I see shrouds of light, pools of color, daydreams and dewdrops in the garden, dewdrops on my fingers, dewdrops on the mushrooms that took early humans from where they were to where we are now, psychedelic experiences, taking us out of Africa, into Europe, all over the world, although maybe this theory is wrong because maybe civilization has existed 7 or 8 other times. Lemuria, Atlantis, the future. The future, the 30th century, DC Comics, the Legion of Superheroes. I want Supergirl, not Superboy, to be in charge of that Legion of Superheroes, and that Legion of Superheroes and that Supergirl definitely needs to be played by Mikaela Peterson because she's perfect. Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, the world's greatest actress. Walk away, Meryl Streep, just walk away. Wonder Woman debuted on American television, the ABC network, November 13th, 1975. Many ways to switch her character from Diana Prince to Wonder Woman were tried. None of them worked. One day, the telepathic, clairvoyant, and altogether magical Linda Carter said to a cameraman, "I have an idea. Start that camera." And she spun. What she could not have known was that on the same day, 100 years earlier, in the Middle East, there was a feminist protest led by women of the Sufi tradition who had not been allowed to spin in the way that Sufis do to induce a drug-free psychedelic state. How did that happen? How did Linda Carter happen? I don't know. My mother is around the same age as Jane Fonda. She looks even better than Jane Fonda. She's never had any work done. Before I was born, she would be stopped in the streets in New York City, and people would say, "Cher, can we have your autograph?" Now, my mother was always so gorgeous that she never needed to develop a personality. And so she would say, "Sure, give me that pen." And I wish I was making that up because it made my childhood very difficult, but I am telling you the absolute truth. Rainbows. Rainbow flags. I'm a full-blown homosexual, but if I see one again, I'm going to slash my wrists. I'm sick of tribalism. I'm sick of fear. I'm sick of the way that the elite is pitting us against one another. My Jordan Peterson impersonation. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection. My lovers are all dreamers who have been inside of me. That's not true. I'm on a protest to remind the world the difference between an exit and an entrance, which is why I just say no to anal sex and encourage all of you to do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel magic, I feel power. I feel something washing through me. It's exactly what I asked for, and now I'm regretting it because it's activating my hernia and I'm in so much pain. I'm going bananas. I've become unpopular around town, and it feels like my poor little mind is being devoured by piranhas, but I love every minute of it, for I'm going bananas. Ladies and gentlemen, the Spirit has left me. I am no longer speaking in tongues. I want you to know that I love each and every one of you almost as much as I love myself. Thank you.
Sean, awesome. Thank you. That was fun. I was tearing. I was laughing.
Did you say you were tearing up?
I was tearing up. Look, it's wet. I was crying, laughing. It's fun. Thank you.
I appreciate that so much, Jake. By the way, welcome back. You look absolutely radiant.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I always...
UV rays.
Yes,
yeah.
my goal is to make sure that at least one person cries every time that I perform.
Well, you're doing great. Track record's good.
Thank you.
At least one.
Thank you.
Sometimes more. I understand you had some issues on Thursday, but that's okay. It's all good. Yeah.
No, well,
yeah.
I'm not going to go over it again.
Yeah, no.
Dexter
don't.
will shoot me if I do. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I will say that I have
some drama.
I do want to say that I have a message for everyone out there, whether they're on the internet or right here. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you? A message for everyone who feels as though they must hold their tongue. You cannot. You must say what needs to be said.
Yes.
Always. It never works. If you come from a place of wanting to make the world a better place, of wanting people to know exactly what's going on for you so that they can do a better job of dealing with you, even if you screw up, you must do it. Yes, you must. Absolutely.
I understand the motivation. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. It just, sometimes strategic thinking helps as well on top of that. But also, the best thing I find is giving it a little bit of time. Because there's many times where I've reacted in a certain way, and I've even written something down, and then I don't send it, and then you go back to it a few hours later. It's a completely different email with a completely different effect. Way better outcome.
So is
But
that
if anything. But
is
I
that
get it.
passive aggressive advice?
Not at all. It is, yes. It's not passive. It's aggressive. It's not passive. No, but I'm
May I
just
get
saying
comfortable?
that's work. But you have a different thing. You're about impulse.
No, I'm not.
It seems that
No,
way
and
from the
I
exterior.
take 3 very strong drugs to not be impulsive.
Well, clearly there's impulse there that is being dampened
Well, here's
with those drugs, is
well,
what you're saying. Right?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, to the makers of bupropion, lithium carbonate, and trazodone, I salute you.
Trazodone, yeah, okay.
Okay, so here's the
It's a
thing.
cocktail,
So
yeah.
here's the thing. When something is about me, when I feel hurt or offended or misunderstood, I definitely hold back and wait. But when an injustice is in mid-motion
Yeah,
and someone else stands to get hurt,
I get it.
I
yeah.
throw myself on that grenade every time.
I get that. Linda Carter thing. The
Yeah,
spitting,
she was my primary hero. Thank God that
I had a crush on her
thank,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank God that that show isn't on the air today, and that I'm not a 5-year-old today.
Because you'd never.
Because
leave your
I
room?
wanted to be Wonder Woman, and so my family was disgusted and appalled because they thought that I wanted to be a woman. And I was always thinking to myself, but didn't know how to articulate, you idiots, I don't want to be a woman, they're terrible. No offense, it's just how I felt at the time. I was getting abused by everyone in my, everyone that
Well,
was in my
that'll
life.
do it.
I wanted to be Wonder Woman specifically, right? Because I think she's the most interesting. She has 3 identities instead of 2.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, do you really want to go through it? This is not a seminar
No.
on Wonder Woman, okay.
But the spinning is like, and I didn't see the Sufis this time in Istanbul, but they have but their spiritual centers actually in central Turkey, but they have, for tourists they have Sufi spinners, and it is kind of magical to watch. And I don't know if you noticed, but they always have like one hand is pointed up and one hand is pointed down while they're spinning. And their head is kind of tilted, but it's kind of like they're drawing the earthly spirits and the heavenly spirits, and they're kind of being a conduit for both. And, metaphorically and also, via the experience, they do have psychedelic experiences where they feel, in a unity with the universe. But, so you're kind of grounded but heavenly at the same time. And I don't know. It's just like we have different parts of it that take over at different times. And you seem to be, I had parts of me that are kind of impulsive.
Yes.
And I guess we just go through life trying to tame, in some sense.
Some
people tame it. Some
Yes.
people ignore it. Some people, crush it down. Some people just pretend it's not there. And some people work through it in different ways. I don't know. Everyone has different challenges.
So is there a
Yeah.
question in there? Or
No,
should I just
just
build on
observing
that?
that
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah,
And here's the thing. None of that was planned,
sure.
right? I've made a decision that I'm going to produce my content in a new way.
Yeah,
I'm going to experiment with a weekly cycle, but it will become a monthly cycle, and it's always going to start right here on this stage
Cool.
with me doing exactly what I did there,
Yeah.
and then it will, over the course of a month, become something polished and perfect.
I like it.
Now,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
in terms of impulse,
Mm-hmm.
chaos and impulse is important because it's where possibility lies. It's where magic lies, but it's also where danger lies, right?
Yes.
And in my past, I was too impulsive to the point of the nervous breakdown, downward spiral, midlife crisis to which I alluded. The homelessness, the orgies, the drug use, the jail time, the glamour, the sophistication of walking around with no shoes in the winter. so stylish, such a radical fashion decision, and that was because I believed that what I wanted was important and how I felt was important. I don't believe that anymore for myself or for anyone.
It's not important.
I think that what's important is what's your duty to the universe, what's good for you, what's good for everyone around you, and what do your material circumstances tell you about what needs to happen next. And when I surrendered to that, I became a much happier person and a more successful person with a much better quality of friends, quite frankly, than I was when I was impulsive. So what I've done now is I've taken it to the point of being sober and celibate every day of the month except for one. And then
Fair.
one day a month I go batshit crazy. And then usually around hour 22, I am so ashamed of myself that I don't want to do anything for another 29 or 30 days. And it's working out just perfectly. And it's approved by my court-appointed psychiatrist.
That might be a very effective way to do
So
it.
there we go.
Yeah.
I've just cured drug addiction, everyone. I've just cured wanton sexuality. Thank you very
Well
much.
done.
It depends. What's
It's
your
a-
day off?
It's a Fat Tuesday.
I
Mardi Gras. Which is, Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday. It's
didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's the day when you do stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I've actually gone like 45.
Indulge.
Yeah, but I've actually gone 45 days because I have a big show coming up, and I'm going to. I've decided to do absolutely nothing, and I'm making a big production of it now because I think it's an interesting concept, but it's not really an important part of my life. I just know that if I were to be sober and celibate for the rest of my life, which I was considering because I was considering being the monk inside of your cult.
We are starting a cult.
Yes,
Yeah.
or a
Details
Jewish
to
or a
come.
Jewish
Yeah.
or a Jewish monk
Yeah.
or a Catholic monk. I was seriously considering it. I know that the shadow would take over occasionally because I have such a gigantic personality. It would take over. So it's really a safety valve to make sure that I don't spiral out again because I have a lot that I need to do in this world.
Well, I haven't known you very long, but I think you're doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're doing great too.
Despite the challenges you've had recently, and you're doing great.
I haven't had any challenges. I've only had gifts.
Yes, gifts to do better, I guess.
Can I tell you really quick
Yeah,
a joke
Sure.
that Dua Lipa made when she was hosting Saturday Night Live?
yeah, another one of your heroes.
Yes.
Duo Lipa.
Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
So she has a new album out that she was promoting on Saturday Night Live, being both the musical guest and the comedy guest,
Wow.
and it's called Radical Optimism. And you know how they do it on Saturday Night Live. Can I take any questions from the audience in the style of Cher or Carol Burnett? Really, everyone's a plant, but it's a setup for a joke. So she said, "So does anyone have a question?" And then someone stands up from the audience and says, Dua, I have a question. I don't know what to do. My wife just left me. We were having sex, and this happens every time we have sex. When I was just about to climax, I called out my mother's name." And so then Dua said,
Oh.
"Well, on the bright side, you get to spend more time with your mother now." And that's how I look at life.
Yeah, good way to end it. Thank you.
We're done?
Yeah, we can have another round.
All right,
maybe.
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Sean
you.
Patrick Sullivan.
Thank you, Jake. You're the best.
Thanks, Sean. You're second best. I did. That's what I was getting at, but I was kind of high. So, no, I hadn't smoked weed in a month, and then I tried some tonight. So it is actually having an effect on me. It rarely does, but yeah, I took a weed break. Michael Durbecker, storyteller extraordinaire.